All right, everybody. Welcome to a episode of the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and that's the ups and downs of life, Kyle. Here we were getting ready to talk about a very successful trip for the Avalanche to Finland with 2 wins over Columbus, and then we get the gut punch that the longtime running play-by-play announcer for the Colorado Avalanche, Peter McNab, passed away. So a lot to get to today. It's the yin and the yang right now, the good and the bad, obviously. A lot to talk about, and we're going to do it all right now on Locked On Avalanche.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Monday episode of Locked On Avalanche. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. You can follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And you just, you hate to start on a somber note, but and start the week off as bad as it could possibly be with the news of the much beloved Peter McNab passing away. And when stuff like this happens, man, I always do this, especially with like celebrities and athletes, you always just feel like they're going to pull through. Yeah. And it was well known that he had the cancer diagnosis last year and never took a day. Well, I mean, he took days off when he needed to, but I should say he never stopped working. And even after the Avs won the Stanley Cup, we were like, would he kind of retire after that? Kind of like sail off into the sunset on a Stanley Cup winning team, or at least calling the season. Mm-hmm. And that's just not Peter McNab. He loved the sport way too much to do that. And, you felt like he overcame. I mean, word came out that he did, cancer was in remission. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it came back in some force to take him away from the Avalanche franchise and the Avalanche fans. It's just a sad day because he's not going to be around anymore. And that's really sad.
To be honest with you, I have literally shed tears many times today. Like, this is he's not just a big member to the Avalanche. Like, he's part of that clip of climbing into the stands and fighting fans with a shoe. And when he played for the Bruins, and he used to be affiliated with the Devils for a little while, and then he's been the voice of the Avalanche ever since they've been in Denver. And it's just one of those things that he's a huge loss to not just the Avalanche, but the hockey community. And for Avalanche fans going forward, you're going to realize how much of a part every game he meant to you. Like, he's the voice of the Avalanche, whether he was on the broadcast, if he was in the studio, whatever form he was there, even on the radio, when I think it was last year when NBC, or the year before when NBC would take over playoff coverage, he would be in the booth with Connor. Like, he couldn't stay away from the game. And he's just that voice that you just kind of hear and you're like, oh, Avalanche must be on. Now that's gone. And it's a big part of Avalanche game day that we are going to greatly miss, because he honestly feels like family.
It's going to be so weird. He missed a couple games, like you said, here and there. Maybe when it was at his worst, or he had a treatment to do, or whatever the case may be. But, he never came out and said, like, I can't do it anymore, I'm going to retire. You would have completely understood if he could do that. But everything that you're hearing right now, if you're following social media and whatever you're on, what everybody's saying is like he had just this genuine love for the game where he never wanted to be away from it. So it doesn't surprise me that he didn't retire when he got a cancer diagnosis, or he didn't retire when the Avalanche won a Stanley Cup and it could have been this John Elway set off into the sunset mode. He absolutely loved the game. And I say this all the time, and I've told you when I had Connor McGahey on a couple of years ago, he gave me Peter McNab's email address, and he was like, "Oh my god," he was like, he would love to do this. Just be prepared to be talking hockey for a very long time because he'll just keep going and going and going. And I sent an email to him, and I didn't know. I mean, it came out afterwards that he had the cancer diagnosis, so it never happened where he came on. He never told me why. It's not my business, but you look back and you're like, okay, that's why. And I never reached out to him again after that, because when I found that out, I'm like, all right, he has way more important things to worry about than this, little podcast that we're doing here. So I never got a chance to speak with him or interview him, but like you're saying, it doesn't matter because you do feel connected to him in some way, just calling the Avalanche games since they moved. And you're right. He's just he's as much a part of the Avalanche as Joe Sakic is, as Patrick Waugh is. Pick your Avalanche players. He's as much a part of them as any of those players. And yeah, man, it's going to be weird. Whoever takes his spot has got some massive shoes to fill.
He's been part of the Avalanche longer than all the small things. Ball Arena. He's been through every jersey combination. He started out McNichols and then went to Pepsi and then Ball Arena. He's been there through all of it. He's been there through before there was Waugh. He was there for that little period of time of Avalanche history before Waugh was there. Like he's been there this entire time, and he will be missed in more ways than you even anticipated. Yes, it's a gut punch, but you're really going to feel it that first game back at home against Nashville.
Yeah. You just love, like, you have your announcers who every announcer in the league is like a homer, and they get more excited when their home team scores than the opposing. Like, you get that comes with the territory. But if a player on the opposing team would make just an insane move, he would get as excited to see that as any move Nathan MacKinnon would do, because he just has that love of the game. He just loves watching players make unbelievable plays. But at the same time, he was so like calm, cool, and collected whenever he would call a game. And like you said, when the regular season is over and it goes into the playoffs and all the games go towards the TNTs, like the major networks. Yeah, he moves over with Connor and does the radio broadcast. And there's video out there. He gets excited. I mean, you got Connor who's just going off the wall when awesome things happen. And there's Peter McNab with just his hands in his pockets. He gives a fist pump every once in a while. He's probably internal as excited as Connor, but he just kept it professional, and just he had a way about him that was I just love watching this game, and the fact that I get to call it at the same time. He was in heaven, it seemed like.
I always equated his love for the game the same way that John Madden loved the game, and he had no problem like picking out good things on both sides. Pete approached the game the same way. He had that love of the game where he could call out something good even if it wasn't Avalanche. And the thing that really struck me the most, being a fan of like the PHF and women's hockey and like trying to grow that, hearing him perk up the most and almost like beam whenever they would have like the women's night in Ball Arena and they're highlighting like women's hockey in the state of Colorado, and hearing him go on and on and on and on, like during plays, and they'd have to like kind of stop him, and he's like continuing to go on and on about what he's seeing. Like his passion, not just for the men's game, the women's game, like the youth game, like the game of hockey is, you could hear in his voice. That's what drove him every day.
I think the three calls I'll remember most. There's a lot of them, but one is when one's not even a call. It's just he says it all the time. But one was when the Avalanche got into the playoffs following that horrific season, and that empty netter by Gabe Landeskog. His reaction to that. His reaction to the Nazem Kadri goal in overtime, when nobody knew it went in, and again Connor's like, did it go in? Did it go in? And he just, it did. It did go. Like, that is fantastic. And hearing him just say Moj over and over again, it's like you could tell like he says it just to give him a couple extra seconds to collect his thoughts, but him just saying Moj over and over is you're just going to miss those little intricacies that he brings to the game. It's a big loss.
Like,
it's a big loss.
It's a big loss. And like we bring up like the Moj line, but you got to feel for everybody at altitude and everybody with the Avalanche, because he was like, you could see the outpouring of support from the players themselves. Like he's a big part of so many people's lives. And imagine like that's your coworker day to day. Like that has to sting. It really must
he worked right up until the end. I mean, he was in the studio with Katie for the first game over in Finland. So working right up until the end, and what everybody is saying about him, are you surprised? So it's just a big thank you to Peter McNab, wherever he may be, because it was fun listening to you, and where we go from here won't ever be the same. The next 25, 26 years will not be like the first. So it was fun. It was definitely fun. Yeah. All right, let's hear from Simply Safe, and then we will get to those 2 games that were over in Finland. And like we said, the Avs needed to take 4 points, and they got 4 points. So first, double check. Speaking of check, we did sound checks, which we will show, or not show. We'll tell which they were, because those were fun doing some Finland bands. All right, but first, Simply Safe, and you know what time of the year it is, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. We are starting to buy Christmas presents, and those presents are, a lot of them, being delivered to your house, and people are on the prowl. And did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package thefts spike nationally? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system, so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. It's a great, great system. You always have your cameras at your fingertips and on your phone. I use it in my house, no lie about that. And I actually like getting the notification that there is somebody at my door, because I can talk to them if I need to. So it's like, if you're going to steal something, number one, I got you on camera, and I can converse with you, and I will play that game all that. It's kind of fun. Nobody's done it yet, but it's almost like I want somebody to steal something from the front of my door, because I got you more ways than one.
Have a conversation with them.
Yes, awesome. Yes. Enjoy that, whatever that is at my door, because I'm going to get it back, and you're going to be in jail. So in an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use fast protected technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real, so you can get priority police response. Do not miss your chance to save big on the only security system that we recommend. It's 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There is no safe like Simply Safe. All right, so we should have started the hashtag for in Finland or something like that, because that's really, how the Avalanche have been playing was up and down. Maybe it's the start of the year. Who the heck knows? Yeah, there's injuries going around, but they weren't playing terrible. At times they were. They were playing good at times. You wanted to see a more consistent Avalanche team. Maybe it's because they were going up against Columbus, who's one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. But it doesn't matter what the case is. The Avalanche leave Finland with 4 big points. And for the most part, they played very well. They had that little lapse where you got up again and you let them crawl back in, but they just imposed their will and are just like, we're a better team than this team. Let's turn it back on again. And we'll get into stats and stuff like that. But you got it from depth players. Finally, you got it from some depth players. So I'm pleased with the 2 games. I take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because it is Columbus, but it's not like you were flying high when you went into this series with them. So to take 2 games kind of in really good and I don't know the word for it, but you handled the business that you needed to handle.
It going into it, you were hoping to at least split the split the series. Like,
I
especially
didn't want
after,
that, dude. I didn't
yeah,
want it. I know what you
well,
mean by that, but I didn't know. When you're going up against a team that's reeling as much as Columbus is, and you know you can play better than what you've been playing, this was set up perfectly for the Avs to take two. They had to.
yeah, and like it was coming off that New York back to back, and how terrible that went. Like New York, New Jersey, how
Mhm.
terrible that went. And like you're just justifying in your mind, like this could be fine if we win one, they win one, and we come home and it's okay. It'll be all right. But you steal both of them, and you don't just take both of them. You win the first one after you let them come back, but then you overcame and you won that game.
Okay.
And then the second game, the depth wakes up, and you get it from players that you don't anticipate. Um,
Mhm.
and that was a more commanding win, to the point that they started to believe in themselves, and they were kind of toying and changing and manipulating in game with how they played the game. And to see them have that confidence again was, I think, the most exciting thing of the 2 days, was
Yeah.
seeing play with confidence, where they were toying with how they're setting up offensively, how they're passing, and the shots they were taking, and who was taking the shots. It was infectious, and you hope they also check that luggage with them, and they're bringing it back to Ball Arena with them against the Predators, because I loved how we finished that second game.
To me, my favorite moment was, Mikko Rantanen
Yeah,
getting a hat trick
yeah,
plus an assist.
yeah,
Those are just stories that write themselves. And it's one of the most difficult things to do, is get a hat trick in any game. So, this one to me is going to stick in my memory as what a moment. Maybe the Nazem Kadri hat trick
yeah,
against St. Louis with how they were treating him, the fans were treating him, and then he goes out and lays a hat trick. That was epic.
yeah,
This is just you're playing in your home country. This is not like just going back to Canada. If he was from Canada, you
yeah,
get multiple chances to do that.
yeah.
This is that was just an epic moment, if you ask me. And even Arturi Lehkonen got into the mix. I don't think he scored in the first game, right?
I don't think so.
No, he
No.
he was just in the second game, but he got the first goal in the second game. So even then, you were like, "Oh man!" So Mikko Rantanen with a hat trick in game one. Lehkonen starts game two with a goal. How epic would that have been
Yeah.
if both guys for the Avalanche, who are from Finland, got hat tricks? But no, that was a moment. I think at the end of the year, we're talking about best moments of the season. That's going to be up there because that was pretty special.
And it's continuing to build on Mikko's just ridiculous start to the season.
He's playing so well. He
And like, he
really is.
didn't get lost in that moment. Like you mentioned, like, this isn't all the time you get to go home and play in front of your home crowd. And like, the moment didn't get to him. He didn't lose his production. He only amplified it. So this could be like a brand new Mikko Rantanen that everybody was asking for, score, score, score in the playoffs. Well, guess what? There was a little bit of a delay in that request, but he heard you, and now he's scoring at will. And this is something we really need, with the absence of, the injuries that the Avalanche have right now. Like, to rely on Mikko Rantanen, where Nathan MacKinnon doesn't have to do so much and we're still able to win games. This is
Yeah.
going to be really good going into this next stretch.
So in game one, the home game for the Avalanche, it was like penalty city.
Yeah.
I mean, penalties all over the place. And even I think that was the one where Nathan MacKinnon took an extra penalty for, where did it go here? He had, was that the first? Yeah. I love how they word it. It's so bad. Like, so he's got a cross check. Okay. And then he's got another two. And the way they word abuse of officials. I don't know. It was he gets feisty, you know what I mean? And sometimes to his detriment. And this time, I don't know if they just weren't going to take it, but because they were in another country and they didn't want to look embarrassed in front of another country's fans or something like that. I didn't think it was all that bad. I can almost guarantee you there's worse things said on a nightly basis to officials that they let go.
I've seen this call a couple times, not just in NHL, but also the minor leagues here lately.
Minor
This
leagues
is
I can see, though. I can almost
it's
understand why they do it in the minor leagues more than the pros.
I don't know if there's been an enhanced like kind of clarification on this or justification of the call, but I have seen this call a lot more here recently.
Yeah. So for the Avs, they had 5 power plays and scored on 2 of them. The Blue Jackets had 7 and only scored on 1. So that's helping the Avs penalty kill percentages, which has gotten better.
Yeah.
If you remove the first maybe couple weeks of the season, the Avs penalty kill is kind of at probably the level it will be for most. It's going to, ebb and flow, which most power plays and penalty kills do. But it's been, it's weird. Like, it's been better in terms of they are killing penalties, or they're not allowing goals on penalties. But it's still like the opposing teams are getting opportunities, but the opportunities are a little bit more difficult. They're not like high danger shots, and you're getting really good goaltending out of Georgiev. So it's a little bit combination of the two. I'd still like them to see like clamp down a little bit more in like the neutral zone. They still let teams just walk into the zone and then set up their offense while they set up their defense. I don't like that stuff. But I don't think that's going to change. I feel like that's the way the Avalanche kill penalties, and they're just going to rely on being in good position and not giving the opposite team like a high danger shot, and rely on positioning and your goalie play. And you're kind of playing with fire a little bit when you do that. But so far, it's working a little bit better than it was in the beginning of the season.
And it's nice to see, like in game 1, that face-off number was at like 36.8%. So like
bad.
They had it proved it was almost like just like a hair over 50% in the second game, but
it was 57% in the second game, actually.
Yeah, well,
57 to 43. Yeah.
So you see the penalty kill start to get ironed out a little bit, still kind of discombobulated, but if they can address both that and the face-off going forward, you have to feel good about that being the baseline. Because like you mentioned, like this is how the penalty kill might be for the rest of the year. If it, at least to my eyes, looks a little bit better, I think I might be all right. But like you could still see where that would break in a heartbeat if it was anybody other than Columbus.
Yeah. So you had, let me get to game 1, you had McKinnon 4 assists in that game, Rantanen with the hat trick and the assist of 4 points for both of them. Taves with 2 assists. Cale Makar gets his first goal of the season in that first game, along with an assist for him. And then in game 2, Devon Taves was like, well, if he's going to get his first goal of the season, I need my first goal of the season. So he gets his in the second game. And then Nathan McKinnon with 3 more assists. So he didn't score a goal, but he had 7 assists in those 2 games. And this is more of the assist machine that he was at the beginning of last year. And Cale Makar, 3 assists in the second game. So fine, you're getting all of what the top line and your top defensive pairing continue to play the way that they have been playing, which is fantastic. But, and this is big, you got goals from Logan O'Connor, JT Compher, and that was in the first game. In the second game, Martin Kaut, Logan O'Connor again, and Alex Newhook got his second. So maybe this is just the jump start that this team needed and these depth players needed to at least start putting up some production. Because, man, the Kaut one was – it's funny because the Mikko Rantanen one where he held on to the puck and he just had just no angle, but he roofed it somehow. It shows you, like, the skill level, because Martin Kaut had something similar and he just banked it off the defender from the Columbus. Hey, a goal is a goal. That's and, right. The way Martin Kaut has been playing, he'll take it any way he can get it. But you had to feel good for him for getting his first goal. And like I said, the 2 for O'Connor and Alex Newhook getting another goal too. You hope, you want to beat these teams. And it's also good for maybe like a launching point, a jumping off point for some of those guys that are struggling a little bit to get the juices flowing.
Could you just imagine if they would have put LOC on that second line? No, but no, to see LOC like really starting to come into his own, it's good. The team is really good when LOC is clicking. So to see him finally get it going, that's great. New hook, it's about time, my friend. Like, hopefully this is the first of many more to come. Like, it's about time. Let's go. Let's build on this. Count. It's an ugly goal. You got on the board.
I wouldn't say it was. I don't know. Ugly. I don't know. If it was ugly, it's almost like an excuse me goal. Like,
yeah, it's a Disney Channel original movie goal.
I'll
like,
say this: it was a smart play. You know
it
what I mean?
was.
It wasn't just like, I'm just gonna fire this on and see what happens. Like, I think that was his intent. His intent was try to bank it off a defender, so it worked.
If this is the beginning, now I know he got sent down to Loveland. If he does rejoin the Avs
which he should,
play
that's
Nashville,
probably just cap stuff, but yeah.
If he rejoins in Nashville, what better team to get more scrappy goals than Nashville? That team is made for that. So if this is another spot that like Cal could start building on, that will be great. I'm not rooting for any Avalanche players to do terrible.
No, exactly.
So if this is
Yeah.
your area, if this is what you could do, then keep doing it. Don't get me excited for one goal and then have to wait till December 14th before we say, hey, count with goal number 2. We got to keep building.
Yeah. And Newhook had the goal in the second, but he also had an assist in the first game. So, 2 games, 2 points for him. You want to see that kid get going, and maybe he's got all the skill in the world. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is it for him. Go ahead if you're gonna say something.
That everything we saw in Finland, I want to see it capitalized and built upon when they come home to Ball Arena. I don't want to see.
With you.
Yeah, I don't want to see jet lag in the production. Then it's the same old, and it's just the top line. Like, I would love to get excited that this is the beginning, not just something that happened.
Right. And finally, before we do our we'll end the show with the sound check today, but got to talk about Georgiev. Kind of a little bit of surprise that he played both games.
Yeah,
you don't typically see. It happens.
Yeah,
players will do it, but I think it happens more when in the first game the goalie isn't challenged that much. Maybe he takes like 15 to 20 shots. He's not really back there, working his butt off, but he saw 39 shots in the first game.
Yeah.
So, and it was a tough game. The Avs, blew the lead, where at least the 3-0 lead where Columbus came back to tie it. So he had to work. It wasn't just this leisurely game for him. So I don't think anybody really anticipated seeing him in game 2, and he thought it would definitely go. We always sing the praises of Francouz and how a serviceable backup that he is. For whatever reason, decided not to do it. And game 2 was better than game 1 for
he had 39 in game 1, 32 the day after, and only gave up 4 goals over 2 games. So, this is what we want out of our Avalanche goalie. This is perfect. Yeah. And he stood up to them coming back and held on. It's going to be at the point, I would love to sing his praises now, but I want to save some of that for the rest of the season, because I feel like this is going to be a night in, night out. This is going to be the goalie that steals us games.
Yeah, I was surprised. And then he gives up the goal in the second game right in the first. And I'm not saying I was having maybe this could go south, if Columbus gets on a roll here, but he just shut the door on him. And the goal that Columbus got was on the power play, which he seems, I know he's given up some even strength goals, but he's given up far more goals on the when the opposing team's on the power play, which makes sense because the power play in the beginning for the Avs hasn't been that great. But 5-on-5, he's been fantastic this year.
And you have a confidence in him when he's back there. You believe that he is going to bail you out if something falls apart. And I really feel good with Georgiev back there.
I agree, man. I definitely agree. So, overall, just a really good trip to Finland. I'm not going to say the Avs will make that their home, but they have to come back home to Denver and continue the season. But there's so many positives you can take out of that game, save for that, the little slip up where they let Columbus back in the game, but it's good. You like to see them rebound and just say like, all right, let's amp it up again and just take the lead. So many good things you can pull out of that to bring home with you from a team standpoint, from, power plays and penalty, more or less penalty kills, from individual players, so many things that you can let's just keep riding that wave. And so, like we say this a lot, like when if a batter in baseball is struggling, they just lay down a bunt. I'm not saying Columbus is a bunt, but
Yep.
I'm just saying like you played a team that you should have done this to.
Yeah.
And you did. So I have good thoughts coming back from that because of you handled business completely the way you're supposed to handle it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in a not usual NHL environment, a lot of narratives were started in Finland. Now you got to bring it home and start building on it.
Right. So typically we start our third segment. We'll end the show today because there's 2 sound checks that we had for these 2 games. And we focused it on bands specifically from Finland. And if you're listening for the first time, Kyle and I, after every game, pick songs that we feel best summarize the most recent game. These songs get added to a playlist on Spotify. Just search for LOA Soundcheck. This is volume 2. Last year was volume 1. So we got 2 songs each from Finnish bands. And this was fun, kind of looking up like some bands that you know, and you're like, I didn't know that they were from Finland, but especially one that you had, which I had no idea. So throw your 2 out. What do you got?
The first one, game 1, I threw out Lordy, My Heaven Is Your Hell.
Which they're like, I didn't know. I mean, I heard of them. I did not know they were from Finland.
And they got their start over there in like their version of America's Got Talent. Like that's how they got
right.
Yeah, and like it was because they were like this kind of Kiss, kind of like real metal. And it was just like their songs are kind of like gore-ish, where it's like tongue in cheek, kind of like horror humor. But their songs are really, really good, and that's where they got their start over there in Finland. So
overseas, like music from like Sweden and like Finland and Norway, like those, like still on the top of the charts over there are still like rock and metal. It's none of this garbage stuff that we got going on over here. That's pretty cool though. That's where they got their start was on. Was it America's Got Talent or American Idol or something?
It was like
whatever it is,
whatever their version is. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's one of those little on television talent shows, and that's where they got their start.
Oh, that's so good. And then after the second game, what'd you have for that?
I got Wings of a Butterfly.
Yeah,
from him. I was that kid. I had the Viva Bam like element hat like to the side. I was that kid in high school, and when I saw that him was from Finland, I was like,
I had no clue, man. No clue.
That was my jam in high school.
Yeah, I remember that song. Like, what year did that song come out?
06, 07?
The album says 2005, and I remember that's right around when I first started subscribing to Sirius.
Yeah.
That song was on Octane all the time, and I can still see my original Sirius whatever, it wasn't in Dash at the time. It had to be like an external thing they had to like plug in, and I can see it now, that orange and black readout with him, Wings of a Butterfly on Octane. You brought that one back, man.
I used to listen to that song on my PSP with earbuds while wearing my skater hat, while skateboarding, drinking Red Bull. That the encapsulation
You're not
of
hardcore unless you live hardcore.
That's right.
Kyle Sullivan. It's such like this beautiful song with the chorus of "Rip out the wings of a butterfly." It messes with your head.
Yeah.
Great picks. For the first game after Mikko's hat trick and 4-point game, I went with maybe one of the biggest bands in Finland, which is Nightwish.
Yes.
And the song is "The Greatest Show on Earth" because that night Mikko was the greatest show on the planet Earth. So I went with that. That's a 24-minute song, by the way. So if you want to listen to that one, I don't know if you have a long car ride. That's when you're going to want to listen to that one, or else I'm going to break it up into sections. That's an epic song right there. And
That was
then
so good.
And then my the second game, and this was not planned, but you did the Wings of the Butterfly, and I did Apocalyptica, who I didn't really know was from Finland.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But they have this 4-song EP out where they do classical song, like they do Beethoven's Fifth in Apocalyptica style. But they have one of Flight of the Bumblebee, which is great.
Let's go.
That was kind of like, well, the Avs were literally all over the ice.
Yeah.
They were like bumblebees just flying all over the ice in that second game. And, I went with, like, when you put up the butterfly, I'm like, well, that's Muhammad Ali right there.
Yep.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Boom. LOA. Sound check. Subscribe. Done. Perfect. Those are 4 good ones right there, man. That's some of our finest work right there, if you ask me.
I think so. I like
it. I'm proud of that. So, all right, everybody. So we have what's our next game? Wednesday or Tuesday?
Let's see.
I have
November 10th against Nashville.
So what is the 10th? That's
5 days.
That's Thursday? Thursday's your next game? That can't be. Are you kidding me?
I wish I was lying.
God. Yeah, no, you're right. Oh my God. Love you, Finland, but I don't want to do this next year because you're getting 2 games in like 2 weeks. God, but it was fun. It was fun.
Even with all of this weight, we have played 2 more games in St. Louis.
That's crazy. Something's got to go. I'm going to put in my application for NHL scheduling because I could probably do a better job than what's going on right now. I don't understand that. Don't understand that, but it is what it is. So, all right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode and maybe tuned in to. Obviously, you're going to hear about the Peter McNab stuff, but to also hear about the games and maybe because everybody's feeling down. We're recording this a couple hours after we found out, so it was good to talk about them. It was good to talk about the Avalanche trip to Finland. It's gonna have a different feel from here on out. So. One last big thank you to Mr. Peter McNab for everything that he has done for the Avalanche since they moved to Denver. It was a heck of a ride. You and I have been there since day one, since they moved there. So it's sad, but it's happy that we were alive at a time where we got to listen to Peter McNab.
Yep.
So. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it, making this your first listen of the day. And we will be back tomorrow with anything new going on in Avalanche land. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.